chainers, wherever you are in the world. This is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everybody, and good morning. Welcome to Thoughts and Coffee. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain, the Blended podcast, and the founder of the Blended Pledge as well. And today I have Dr. Muddassir from SEM Dojo with me. I cannot wait. If you don't know who he is, which you probably already know who he is, I cannot wait for you to meet him. But before we do that, let's give a shout out to our sponsors. So say you're at work and all the lights flicker and then go out. You try to move and bump into something, you turn and bump into something else. You just can't work like this. Well, you need to be able to see what's happening. This is how your inventory feels. Fastenal has unique inventory solutions that sends data to the cloud and helps you avoid stockouts while not carrying excess inventory. Don't stay in the dark. Let Fastenal shine a light on the parts and supplies that keep your businesses running. Go to fastenal.com/LTSC and see how they do it. All right. So let's give you a bit of an overview of what's happening on Let's Talk Supply Chain. So we have a brand new episode for you. It's episode 356. Wherever you listen to the podcast, you can go to letstalksupplychain.com. You can also go to our YouTube channel as well. And Greg from Shapeways and MFG joined me on the show to talk about manufacturing and how they are completely changing the game. Now, you want to go and check this out because they are coming up with all sorts of ways using technology to help you break down design barriers and scale your manufacturing business. So again, go check that episode out. It was really great. We talked about how they're helping, what that looks like, and all the impact that they're making on the industry. All right, so Hope White is back on Friday for No Bullshipping, and she's talking about the ups and downs of running a successful transportation company. Now, we all know what's happening in trucking right now, so this is a do not miss. This happens at 10 a.m. on Friday, so go and click the attend button. If you cannot attend in person, I will send you the link to the recording. Same with this one. I go live with Jerry, Peter, and Trevor, who joined me back in April talking about the intermodal market trends, and everybody wanted us to bring them back. So we are bringing them back Thursday, August 31st at 2 p.m. Eastern. And you're not going to want to miss this. So go and click the attend button. I'll send you the recording if you cannot attend in person. What else is happening? We've got a brand new episode of the Blended podcast talking about anxiety in the workplace. Now, organizations are forcing people back into the office. It's causing all sorts of anxiety and mental health issues and challenges. So go and check this out because these ladies were so brave in talking about their experiences with anxiety. We also talk about how to support somebody who maybe is going through a panic attack or suffering from anxiety as well. So go and check that out. And what else have we got? We've got a brand new Woman in Supply Chain blog, and we feature Erin O'Leary. Erin is an inspiration in the industry, and she talks all about her journey and how she has made it to where she is in supply chain. So go and check that out over on letstalksupplychain.com. And remember, we have all the links in the comments for you. Easy to click to go and check that out. And then, of course, we've got the Supply Chain Minute with Mike Bush of Envase Technologies talking about careers in supply chain, how to leverage groups like supply chain meetups, local supply chain meetups, to really boost your career in supply chain. All right. Well, now, without further ado, it's time to bring up our guest, Dr. Muddassir. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening. I'm not entirely sure where you are in the world. Tell everybody where you are.
Pretty much good evening. It's in Dubai. It's 6 p.m. Right. Thank you for having me. It's been a great start, actually. You got a lot to share. Good to know.
Yeah, so it's good to see you. So most people know who you are. So for those who
Yeah.
don't, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Right. So I'm a founder of SCM Dojo. So again, first of all, thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. is generally so difficult that people have my name as a password with some date of birth, weird but true. And secondly is writing Esimdujo correctly with all capital because people don't do that. So thank you for this. So what we do, we are basically a marketplace of supply chain knowledge and experts. So if you want to, develop your competencies, if you want to hire an expert, you're looking for consultancy, technology solution, you just come to us and we will find you. Therefore, our logo is we help supply chain thrive. Bring the problem, we'll find a solution. I worked for Eaton about 12 years, so I've done every job in the supply chain. I happen to be a manufacturing manager on the other side of the chain, and I work for Bridgestone as a head of planning logistics for 4 years.
Yeah, and we've got a big announcement that we're going to talk about as well because you and I are finally partnering. I think we've been talking about it
Yes.
for a while, which we just got
Mhm.
around to it. It took us a little bit of time to get there, but
Yeah,
but we got there.
we got there. Yeah.
All
Right.
right.
So supply chain secret. So I think we'll keep it to the end, right? So let's keep people engaged and we will reveal at the end, right? I guess.
Okay, everybody, we're going to reveal it at the end. Dr. Muddassir is like the guy to go to for keeping secrets and keeping you engaged till the end. All right, let's talk
Absolutely.
about the poll of the week. So, the question that we asked you, what is your forecast for 2023 peak season? And we've got a bit of a tie. 33% of you said busy as usual, 32% of you said very busy, and 32% of you said lighter than normal. So, it's a variety of answers across the board. Dr. Mudasir, what do you
Okay.
think? What did you think about this when you saw
I
it?
think that's the first poll I've seen where there's the normal distribution doesn't apply. Right. So I think it's confusing. Depends which I think which sector you are in, right? So I'm sure there's multiple sector. So people who are working towards Christmas season, festivities and the product which goes, they might say very busy. Some people who are very much summer driven products or services, I think they might say they're lighter than normal. So I would guess that's the reason. But yeah, I'm equally confused. Yes.
Yeah, everybody's in a variety of different stages, and peak season generally starts in July. But
Yeah.
obviously, we've had a very different couple of years because of the pandemic. So,
Yeah.
people, depending on what industry you're in, are in a variety of different stages, I guess, of peak season. And Fred says, if I pick other, it would be to respond very, very busy as usual. So, we've got some people who are even busier than the people who replied busy.
That was
I
not an
want to.
option.
Sorry.
That was not an option as well. Very busy was not an option.
Very, very busy. All right. I want to give a shout out to those on my personal LinkedIn right now. We've got Sheik, Drew, Imran, Hamad, Bashir, and Hamad as well. Thank you guys all for joining us. Now, Dr. Mudasir, because you're in Dubai, and we know that supply chains vary and are very different around the world. And it's one of the reasons why we have the Asia Pac franchise because we want to be talking about localized supply chains because they are
Yeah.
very, very, very different. So, give me a bit
Yeah.
of a market update. What's happening in your part of the world? What are people talking about in supply chain?
I think if you see that this part of the world is pretty much retail driven, right? Distribution retail. There's not much manufacturing except Saudi. And as I mean, literally last 2 months has been people actually, like Canada, when people goes out of country in winter, in Dubai, people go out of the country in summer, right? So you hardly any traffic. I mean, you can drive whenever. But the August onwards period, like September onwards, it gets busy because people come from holidays. There's restaurants are busy, shopping centers are busy. Therefore, the sales picks up. So it's pretty busy for most of the distribution and retail places. However, in certain sectors, if you go for for example, heavy machinery, if you go for tire industry, automotive industry, it's still problematic because the famous chip issue is still hurting us. New cars are not available. Therefore, tire industry, I know I have some customers there. They are not doing pretty well as well. So again, vertical to vertical, some verticals are thriving, some are not. So pretty mixed bag. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you were just recently in the UK.
Yeah.
What were you hearing around supply
Ooh.
chains in Europe?
I think Europe overall is as a sentiment, it's in recession. If you pick
Mm.
Germany, if you pick UK, I think the higher interest rate is hurting industry and also people in general, right? Because they want to control inflation in UK. bank interest rate is around 5.56. Therefore,
Mm,
the people are paying higher mortgages. People can't take loans, so they are struggling to do business. They can't hire more people. Therefore, can't hire more people. There's lack of promotion. Lack of promotion means people are not ambitious, which leads to people working from home. And so overall, I've seen the activity. If you take out the tech sector, I think tech sector is still doing bad. But if you talk about in general the manufacturing or retail space, no, the people I meet, I talk to, they're not doing well. They're still, Wilco is one of the biggest retail distributor. I have friends there. They are having heavy redundancies. They are sacking people. I went to the main shopping mall in Birmingham and London. All the big brands are shutting down. So
mm,
as a consumer walking around, as a talking to friends and family, I didn't get a good feeling.
mm. That's really interesting because a lot of folks that I've been talking to, especially on the technology side, they're showing that things are picking up a little bit.
Yeah, but technology, as I said, except tech sector. So I said that, right?
Mm,
So tech sector is definitely improving because what happened is when you got cost pressures, right? When you got a pressure to, drive efficiency, naturally you're gonna move toward digitalization of some sort, right?
mhm,
So I actually releasing an interview tomorrow with Chris Andrews. He's a partner with ENY on supply chain digitalization. He was buzzing because what happening right now is they got big customers and all big customers is trying to look into more customer intimacy, which I'm sure we're going to talk about later, right? How to drive more efficiencies in supply chain, how to reduce cost, and
yeah.
therefore you have to drive digitalization, and therefore tech sector is thriving.
Hmm. Interesting. And it's really interesting to see what's happening in different parts of the world, right? And which
Mhm.
sectors are thriving, which ones we need to take a look at and possibly
Mhm.
support. So thank you so
Mhm.
much for providing that market update. Now, everybody has been asking me to talk about AI in supply chain. So we are finally going to do that today. And we're going to do that with you, Dr. Muddassir, because we both have some very interesting opinions on this. And I found a really interesting article out of the technology guru website, and they talk about how the AI is the process of vast amount of data in real time. And of course, with supply chains, we have a lot of data. They go through a lot of use cases in this article. Pick and pack at the warehouse, self-driving. They talk about predictive maintenance, especially when we've got a lot of assets and things that we have to keep an eye on, especially trucks, right? Chassis, all sorts of things. In the intermodal side of the industry, we're talking about maintenance. So, talk to me about what you think this article really meant to what we're looking at AI in supply chain. It's a big topic. People are talking about it. I've had multiple people reach out to me and say, "When are you going to talk about AI in supply chain?" Although I feel like I've spoken about it in a few different ways. So, Dr. Muddassir, give us your take on this. And if anybody has any questions for Dr. Muddassir, make sure to put them in the comments so that we can get to those.
So I've read the article as well. I'm actually trying to write a book on supply chain digitalization. One of the key topic, and I've written almost like a white papers. So I just need to work and to convert into a book. If not this year, hopefully next year. So it talks about a lot of technology, not just AI. Talk about blockchain. Talk about cloud computing. Talks about 3D printing, RFID. Anyway, so let's focus on AI first. I think AI is right now the use case. So if you read this article, it has mentioned almost every possible application, and nothing wrong with that, right? Anywhere where there's a data, there's a parameter, and there's a process, right, which is the input and output. Of course, AI will apply, right? But the use cases are exaggerated, and it's about Mickey Mouse. Allow me to explain why, right? If you
Mickey
take
Mouse.
yeah, if you take the whole application, ChatGPT is there. They have OpenAI has created a very nice
Mhm.
LLM models. The API is available. You pay for the API and you can use it. But that API is useless for you, right? Because it's essentially a fancy calculator. To make a right use of AI, or let's call it even a virtual assistant of any sort, right? To
Mhm.
help you even with the predictive modeling or prescriptive modeling of some sort, with any application, all of that mentioned in research, you have to train the model,
Mm.
right? If the model is not trained, it's not going to give you answer. And I can substantiate with the example actually with ChatGPT. So if you write anything query with ChatGPT, and most of the queries it says, our data is limited by November 2021,
Yes,
right?
that happened to
Right.
me.
Exactly. So the reason they say that, so whatever the model has been trained for is been
Right.
trained on the available knowledge on the web of November 2021. If you go to ChatGPT 4, which is a higher paid version, it has the more recent knowledge, not the free one, right? And the same
Mm.
will go for any supply chain application. So big organization who's sitting on a lot of big data, right, or data sets, right?
Mhm.
Uh, they have to train the models. The models are available. In fact, Google has launched the LLM, right? In fact, Facebook has now recently partnered with Microsoft because even Facebook couldn't generate their own model. So they're using the model. So the models are available on the cloud and you can get it. But the thing is, you have to hire people or you have to train your own people to train the model to get the best out of it. Otherwise, it's just Mickey Mouse, as I said.
Mhm. Mickey Mouse. I like the Disney reference. But it's true, right? And we always talk about process and data first before any
Yeah.
technology application. Now, you mentioned blockchain a little bit earlier, and in this article, it says that they're using blockchain and AI to increase the security of our supply chains. Now, I know there's a lot of mixed emotions about blockchain in supply chain. So, what do you think about that? Is this truth or
See,
not quite?
there is a very interesting video I saw from one of the gurus who said actually crypto, which is one of the application of blockchain, is a is a scam. And I actually kind of agree with that, right? Okay,
Okay.
but I'm just trying to put the notion to it. Blockchain is a technology which is a ledger to ledger transaction of data or the information is a legit technology, right?
Mhm.
But now taking that very basic definition of blockchain into the sphere of application, let's take a very famous use case. A use case of IBM and Musk, who launched the
Right.
platform, right?
Mhm.
Uh, I forget the name right now, which they shut it down a few months ago, right?
Yes, they did. Mhm.
The trade lens,
Trade lines, yeah.
right? Okay, they invest millions and millions of dollars, right?
Mhm.
They have a team up there, and if you read the CEO statement at the bottom, in my translation of that is to make any supply chain transaction work, which have if you think about any supply chain transaction, there are many parties involved. There is a manufacturer, there's a
Yep.
distributor, there's a banks involved, there's a trade organization, custom organizations. If you just somehow use the ledger to ledger and peer to peer transaction, what's going to happen with the parties in between? So it's not in their favor. It's not in the favor of banks actually to go to make
Mm.
it happen. It's not in the favor of customs to make it happen, right? If you can send a bill of lading, but if the customs don't see the bill of lading, guess what, right? So the issue here is not the technology, right? The issue here is the parties involved in the physical movement of goods, which basically to make the physical movement of goods, you have to pass the information, right?
Mhm.
And this is where the real challenge is, right? To make blockchain works, you have to find the simplest of use cases. So start with I think the good use case of blockchain would be transparency, which is like origin, it's a country origin. Like for example, Louis Vuitton bag, it is really
Mhm.
made in factory of Louis Vuitton, or is it made in a copy of China in Shenzhen?
Right.
Exactly, actually, it's probably made in the same factory. One is branded and the other one is not, right? So that's a good use case, I think, for blockchain. If you really want to go outside the use cases, I think supply chain will struggle to adopt.
So Dan has your back, Dan Gardner. He said trade lens when we were trying to figure out the
Yeah,
name.
yeah,
But Dan also said outside of robotics, AI and supply chain comes down to training labeled data. So supervised learning. So he's basically saying the same thing that
yeah,
you're saying is that we need to
yeah,
be able to understand our processes to be able to
yeah,
really train
yeah.
the AI to do what it's supposed to be doing.
And they then use a very correct term here is supervised learning, right? So even in AI, there's three forms like fully autonomous, supervised, and semi-supervised. And I think where we need to start is start from a supervised AI, then move to a semi-supervised, and then we need to go to fully autonomous. And
Mhm.
I can see some really famous brands of supply chain. They keep saying autonomous supply chain trademark, not going to name the brand. Again, I think it's Mickey Mouse.
I just want to say hi to Brendan over on my personal LinkedIn as well. One other point I want to say about this before we move on to the next one is that this particular article talked about how AI virtual assistants is going to help manage your supplier customer relationships. That's where I kind of tuned out because supply chain is very much about relationships. And I really don't think that that is an application that's going to fly in an industry where we depend so much on the relationships that we garner and network on a day-to-day basis, especially between suppliers and customers. I recently have had to deal with some of my suppliers just through an AI virtual assistant, and it's been a disaster. It's taken me 2 weeks to try to get to a solution when really, if I could have just spoken to somebody, it would have taken me 5 minutes. And that's what we don't want in supply chain.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk at length, but I'm going to say one more thing just to substantiate what you said, right? Robotic process automation, right, is a more simpler technology, right? So RPA is now used to tell ETAs, ETD.
Mhm.
Let people adopt this. Let's get industry used to this. Then bring AI. If you can't use the RPA correctly, forget about using AI. You're just not going to do it.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to the next one because we only have about 4 minutes on this one. What is supply chain as a service? So, this is an article from your blog, Dr. Muddassir. And
Yeah,
let's talk about this. What is supply chain as a service? I know we've been hearing a little bit more about this recently. So, talk to
yeah,
me about this.
yeah. Right. Quick background, right? So when I was a division supply chain manager at Eaton, I had 11 plants, and what I used to do, used to go into the different plant in China, Romania, Germany, France, and I used to see same problem, like same inventory problem, same demand forecasting problem. And when I become into a consultant and I start running my own business, same thing. So, for example, there are people who are expert in sourcing, people expert in logistics, warehouse automation. I'm expert in supply chain utilization, inventory management. So if you are, for example, a fashion designer, right, your job is to design and you grow your bags or whatever fashion accessory you're making into Instagram and big. Supply chain is not your core competency. But the thing is, you can't grow without a proper supply chain experts. So
Mhm.
the whole idea here is like you outsource your HR or your accounting function to the experts, right? Which you people do. People hire digital marketers. We have developed a platform where you can hire 110 experts who have a various different expertise and they offer their package services. Let me give you a quick example of that. I have a friend who sells glass on eBay and he's got his own stores and he sells on Walmart. He's a good IT guy. He sells glasses for whatever. So we become almost a supply chain as a service provider for him. So we do inventory forecasting for him and we do inventory optimization for him. So we reduce inventory, improve on-time delivery, and he's happy with that. So he doesn't have to hire a full blended planner or full blended, demand forecasting people. So rather than hiring three people, he can
Mhm.
have it as a monthly service, and that is a good example. So we have about 110 people who are experts and they are willing to provide almost their services in a package format, i.e. a product, which is a price and the cost and everything else to goes with it.
And that's such a great service. I wonder though, because excuse me, so for some fashion retailers, right, their supply chains could be part of their competitive advantage. Maybe not just fashion, maybe other industries and things like that. So if we talk about supply chain as a service, we're talking really from sourcing all the way to delivery. And if we're looking at encompassing all of that, but some retailers are using their supply chain as a competitive advantage, some of that sourcing maybe they do want to keep in house, right? Especially when they're focusing on sustainability potentially. So when you talk
Yeah.
about core competency, I guess it depends on how far along they are with their supply chain,
Yeah.
how close to the chest they want to keep their supply chain, especially if it's a competitive advantage, right?
Yeah, it's also, I think it's predominant down to the size and maturity. If you're a more mature organization already and you're big in size and you can have all the resources and like I used to work for Eaton and we used to say supply chain is our competitive advantage. You wouldn't outsource anything. Maybe you can hire but having said that, let's take an example of network design, right?
Sure.
Network design is a very, very important thing, a strategically important thing, but you do once and twice a year. You don't have to have this service in house. You can outsource to the expert who
Mhm.
has done it for multiple people. You can sign the NDA, do the data, and they will tell you what should be your center of gravity, what should be your distribution network. It's a good example even for the mature companies.
Awesome. So Anna says supply chain as a service is in high demand for commoditized supply chain transactions. AI will commoditize many supply chain transactions like planning. Creating plans is not the core competence. Interpreting and reactions to changes in the plan is the secret sauce. What do you think about that, Dr. Muddassir? And thank you, Anna, for
I,
joining us.
I I love Anna. Big fan of Anna, and Anna is always
Me
right.
too. Anna is always right. Did you hear that? And I think we have this on tape. So, Anna, I mean, you can
Yes,
use it forever.
yeah, you can do that. You got endorsement from my end.
I love that. All right, let's get into our last article. So, the last article comes from Supply Chain Digital, and it talks about how chief supply chain officers are ignoring customers in a digital twin drive. Excuse me for that. Um, what they're talking about, and I've always talked about this, is collaboration is the future of business. We need supply chains collaborating with marketing and customer service, customer experience, et cetera, et cetera. And this actually leans into that quite a bit. Now, they interviewed 380 supply chain leaders. 60% of them are piloting a digital twin, which is really like a simulation. And maybe Dr. Muddassir, you can go into a little bit more about what that means. 27% of them, which is very low, is piloting the digital twin of the customer. The customer experience, the customer feedback is really what is driving how we should be planning a lot of our supply chains. And so 20% out of that 60% is actually quite low. It's just a little bit less than 50%. So what did you think about this article?
First of all, I think digital twin is a great technology. It's a great concept more than technology actually, right? And I think all CSCOs and all every supply chain people should use that. But if you think about how are you actually going to start with digital twin, this article talks about the understanding customer intimacy, improving forecast, improving reducing total cost of acquisition. All of that is fine, but it will all start by mapping your supply chain and understanding your customer, right?
Mhm.
If you don't map your supply chain properly and all the nodes in the supply chain and really understand the customer attributes, you can't create a digital twin. So I think the struggle here is not the drive and to willingness to do it. I think the struggle is if you think supply chain is complex, it's very dynamic, it changes every quarter to quarter. The problem is very different, right? Customer behavior changes, so that your process model changes. Therefore, the digital twin needs to be more dynamic here, right? So I think the article is talking about mapping the customer behavior or creating a digital twin of your customer behavior. It's extremely challenging, right? In my personal view, I might be wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. However, I'm going to give you an example where we should again take a rather than going for alphabet Z, we have to start from ABC, right, to get the point. So the early stages of the adoption would be take your current, let's call it warehouse supply chain structure and create a digital twin. An example of that, which I've seen very successful, which is a digital twin of your warehouse, right? So take your routing data out of your WMS or ERP system, put into a digital twin software, which will tell you that your heat map, that have you done the ABC slotting correctly, or
Yeah.
people are traveling a lot too much, or you optimize that. So you can like lean to your reduce time, having a better workflow, right? So let's start with a more simpler application of digital twin, learn about the benefit, and then you can go for a more complex problem, which is really creating a supply chain digital twin, understanding your customer. So not a bad idea, very, very complex. Start from the simpler example.
Yeah, start with the simple example of the digital twin and then move
Yeah,
on to the digital twin
yeah,
of the customer.
yeah.
One of the things that I can't remember the lady's name that they interviewed in the article, but she said without it, it's disadvantaged the supply chains to driving growth. So that was quite a big statement, right? If you don't have a digital twin, if you don't have a digital twin of the customer, you're not going to be able to drive growth within your supply chain. So I highly recommend you go and check out that article, read it through, make the conclusions for yourself, your business, your supply chains. Now, before we go, I just want to let everybody know where I'm going to be. So we've got, of course, the IANA LinkedIn Live next Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be at IANA Expo in September 11th through 13th at Long Beach, California, and the Inland Distribution Conference in September the 25th to the 27th in Chicago. And Blended Pledge, as well as Let's Talk Supply Chain, are sponsors of the New Face of Inclusion Summit, which is happening virtually September 14th. So go and check that out. And then, of course, we've got the Women in Supply Chain Forum in November, and I will be there November 14th and 15th. So hopefully I'll be able to see some of you at those events, and we've got the links in the comments if you do want to join us. Dr. Muddassir, any final comments before we go?
No, so let's reveal the big secret. So the supply chain
The Secret
secrets,
Society
right?
of Supply Chain.
Right,
That's
sorry,
right.
my
We
bad,
are
my
launching.
bad.
That's
Right, so
okay. We're
we are
launching.
launching soon.
Yeah.
We have done a fantastic. When I was in Canada with you, we did a good video. We're hopefully going to launch next week.
Yep.
So we're very proud to partner with Let's Talk Supply Chain. We have given one of our best courses, my course of supply chain digitalization, free or not free for the members of the Secret Society. And most importantly, we have given a very special discount code for all the members of Secret Society Supply Chain. So you are gonna miss out all the good stuff if you don't sign up, right? So that's my endorsement. Super proud of being partnership with Sarah and Let's Talk Supply Chain. Let's keep this. Let's make the biggest secret. Let's do that.
Yeah, we are super excited. So the Supply Chainers group, you are going to hear from us next week, and get ready to sign up because it's got exclusive content. We've got content from content providers like Dr. Muddassir, as well as Dan Gardner, all in one place for you. And I have interviewed some of the top supply chain leaders to give you some insights in how to make your supply chains better. So you're not going to want to miss out on that. We're launching that next week. And thank you, Dr. Muddassir, for being here with us today and being a great partner of Let's Talk Supply Chain.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great fun. Half an hour was not enough.
I know.
All right.